janitors, people of Earth, everyone who came out today, we appreciate it. I want to start with a story. About 5 years ago, Max and I were home alone, having a great Sunday afternoon. I think I was watching football. Max was off somewhere. I wasn't really paying attention. He hadn't been diagnosed on the spectrum yet, but he was definitely there. And in the other room, I think he was in the kitchen. In fact, I know he was in the kitchen. I'm sitting on watching TV. The kitchen is just off the TV room, and he's in there being very quiet, which should have been my first signal that something was about to go horribly, horribly wrong. As I'm watching TV, I hear this. But you know when you're really involved in a TV show and you're digging what you're watching and it is just so awesome that you just kind of accept the fact there's some ambient noise in the background, you don't really know what it is. And at a certain point, I remember my head was bobbing. And it was this perfect, he was keeping perfect time, whatever it was. Then it dawned on me, there's a noise in our house that shouldn't be happening. And again, it was just the two of us home alone. Max?
What?
Do you hear that noise?
Yeah?
Do you know what it is?
Yeah?
What is it? I'm stabbing the kitchen table with a steak knife. I know. We had just bought those steak knives. And we had had that beautiful table for about 5 years. We realized then, at that point, we weren't going to have nice things until he was out of the house. But that's okay. That should have been the first sign of many that maybe something wasn't quite right, because what child would actually admit to you without any shame, I'm stabbing the kitchen table with a steak knife? And just point of fact, when I did go look at the table, perfect rows. It was fantastic. So, I tell you that story kind of to give you an idea of what Max is like. Max was diagnosed on the autism spectrum in the first grade. We had noticed that he wasn't developing his social skills, he was struggling with schoolwork, he was highly intelligent, but his writing, his schoolwork, his peer interactions weren't reflective of that. Max would put his head down in class, fall asleep, and the reason he fell asleep, it was an avoidance tactic. He just couldn't handle what was going on in the classroom. He would, when he got frustrated or upset, he would bang his head on the desk. I mean really bang his head. He would bang his head on walls. He would run out of the classroom. He would interrupt. He had verbal tics that sounded like he was laughing, but he wasn't. It was part of his diagnosis. We were constantly getting calls from school for behavioral issues. I was at the school so often, I told them, you might as well just give me an office here, because I'm here every day anyway. At one point, before he was diagnosed, we found out almost 3/4 of the way through the school year, he had been spending the majority of his time in the hallway for disrupting class. So I'm sure there's a lot of parents, this is a very typical story for a lot of parents where just, that light bulb is going off like, oh my God. So we had him diagnosed, we took him in, and he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum. We've been through all the therapies that everyone else in the autism community has been through: parent-child interactive therapy, parent-directed interaction, cognitive behavioral-based therapy, etc. The one where they make you wear the earpiece and you're correcting your child and then somebody yells at you through the earpiece and, oh, don't do that. Where you second-guess everything you've ever thought of as a parent. All of that. I'm not here to talk about any of that stuff. There are people in the room who are way more well-versed on that than me. I just thought, I didn't even know the names of the therapies as we were doing them, I just knew it was therapy. We've been very open and honest with Max about his autism from day one. He was there for the diagnosis. We told him, he's right there, he's sitting right there. Want to wave to everybody?
Hello.
Hello. Autism is part of Max's wabi-sabi. Does anyone know what wabi-sabi is? It's a Japanese belief that it's the little imperfections in life that make life perfect. So simply put, autism is one of the things that makes Max perfect. We wouldn't change him if we could. We want him to own this. He owns his autism. He's proud of it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It makes him unique. It makes him interesting. I'd rather sometimes be in a room full of autistic children than neurotypical children. Because autistic children say the most inappropriate things. And I love inappropriateness. Max, like a lot of children on the spectrum, has trouble making eye contact. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share some tips with you that we've found throughout the years as parents. He has trouble making eye contact. A lot of adults have trouble making eye contact. I used to have trouble making eye contact. We taught Max, you don't have to make eye contact. Here's what you do. Look people in the forehead. They can't tell if you're looking at their eyes or not. Now, unfortunately, Max can be a bit of a close talker, so sometimes he'll lean right at your forehead. But it works. It seems as if he's looking you in the eye. I also want to talk about IEP meetings very quickly. I remember the first IEP meeting, dreading it. I used to have a lot of trouble. I was in special ed all throughout grade school and high school. They didn't call them IEP meetings then. They called them Philip's been acting up again meetings. So I dreaded the thought of having to, it was like deja vu. I mean, I have to go to these meetings again now that I'm an adult for my own kids. Are you kidding? You see, Maggie was a perfect student. Neurotypical, straight A's, honor roll, National Honor Society. Max, and she's very much like her mother. Max more like me, only with autism. What I want to say about IEP meetings is, and we've learned this, the principal, the teacher, the school psychologist, the lunch lady, the janitor, anybody else in the IEP meeting is not your enemy, nor are they Satan's minions. Most of the time, and I say most of the time because I know that there's situations where parents have gone to IEP meetings and they felt attacked. But most of the time, they're professionals who have the same goal as you. They want to get your child to the next grade, then to high school, then to college, and hopefully out of my home. And off doing something that they want to do. You need to pick and choose your battles at IEP meetings. Avoid uncomfortable confrontations when possible. Think of everyone as part of your team. We realized right away there were a lot of parents who go into these IEP meetings and they'd say to you, not my kid, not my child. Well, I knew it was my child. Like, oh, that sounds like Max. He did what? Yeah, we've seen that. Be prepared. Know your rights, know the law. Or have a wife who knows our rights and knows the law and takes notes when your mind ultimately wanders and you're staring out the window. When you work together in IEP meetings, great things will happen. I can attest to this. Now, I don't know if, and you'll meet Megan Moore, I don't know if this was Megan Moore's idea. I don't know if it was his school counselor guy named Dr. Nick Gosher's idea or whose idea it was. He came up in an IEP meeting. But let me tell you a wonderful story. After an incredibly disastrous stint in the 3rd grade at a different school, it was a smaller school, we decided to pull Max out of that school and send him to someplace much larger. And it was gut-wrenching because this was the same school our daughter attended. We thought a smaller school would be better for Max because he wouldn't get lost in the shuffle of all these kids. The teachers would know who he was. Maybe he'd get a little bit of special treatment, but that's really not how it worked. So it was gut-wrenching for us. We knew our rights. We knew certain things about the Edmond School District. We knew who to meet with. We did a lot of soul searching, a lot of talking. And we decided after a long time that we were going to send him to our home school instead of this other school that we had been sending to. And I'm going to say the name of the school because they deserve to be credited. Angie DeVoe in Edmond. He entered the 4th grade. Now, when you're a new kid at school and you don't know any of the other kids, it can be difficult. When you're a new kid and you're on the autism spectrum, it can be a potential disaster. Now, when Max first got to the school, there were a few instances of kids either being mean or not getting him, or, for lack of a better word, bullying him. And it happens, to, especially to kids on the spectrum. What Max's IEP team came up with to fix this was both brilliant and remarkably simple. For the first few weeks at school, Max and his school counselor came up with a PowerPoint presentation about autism. Max loves messing around on the computer. He's very interested in stuff like that. And as a result, he got to learn a little bit about autism. Things like Albert Einstein, suspected of having autism. Henry Ford, suspected of having autism. So he learned these things. And for weeks, Max would then practice the presentation in front of other teachers and staff at Angie DeVoe, and that served two purposes. One, Max got comfortable standing up in front of people and doing an actual presentation. He was 9 at the time. And two, the staff became educated about Max, his condition, and what he was like as a person. He even did the presentation for us at the second IEP meeting. And I swear to God, our jaws hit the floor. Here was our son who couldn't make eye contact a year before, whose self-esteem was literally in the toilet because of what had happened in 3rd grade. It was unbelievable that this boy was confident, standing, telling us about Henry Ford and telling us about Albert Einstein, telling us about Edison. So slowly but surely, things were changing. Then Max did the presentation for his class. They videotaped it. It's on YouTube if you want to go look at it. It's called Max's Autism Presentation. Now, he gets some of his facts wrong. Albert Einstein didn't invent the nuclear bomb. But that's not the point. The point was, now, here he was, with his confidence back. A confidence we thought was gone. Standing in front of his peers, telling them about autism, then, at the end, doing a Q&A. Do you have any questions? And he answered them. Then, he, of course, he did stop, and all of a sudden he started looking at his pocket, and he just stopped. He got distracted by Linton. But the confidence that we thought wouldn't return, returned. His grades now, a year later, he went from getting D's and F's and C's. His last report card, he got an A+. He's getting B's and A's. He's happy, he's making friends. He goes to sleepovers, he has sleepovers, they ruin our house. It's something of a miracle for us. So when I say that the people in your IEP meeting are not the enemy, please, when I tell you, work with them, find common ground, find out things about them. They're people too. They want to make sure that your children succeed. That's their job. That's why they got into this in the first place. And finally, one last thing, and then I'll get off the stage. Get involved. You already are involved, you're here. But become active in the autism community. I have a fondness in my heart for Autism Oklahoma. Go to the parents' meetings. Learn more. This is where we learn about our rights, strategies, tips, tricks, all the stuff I'm talking about. We learn through parents' meetings at Autism Oklahoma. We learned a lot about the end of public schools through Autism Oklahoma. So you can go to autismoklahoma.org, get all the information. But most importantly, and I say this to all of you, we aren't going through this alone. You're not the only ones. If this is your first time here, maybe you just have a new diagnosis, you're not alone. You can do this together and be positive. Thank you very much.